Hey YouTube. Okay, this is a short little intro into videos that I will be adding to all of my videos as I re-upload old videos from the Sarge Vining YouTube channel that was hacked and deleted. In doing so, the videos are going to reference links to videos that are not yet loaded to the site. So please be patient. Those videos will eventually be loaded. But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to rebuild 5 years worth of work. And, well, turns out rebuilding a video channel is a little bit more difficult than building a video channel. So again, please, the links that are referenced may or may not be in this video. I'm going to fix that as soon as I can. All right, let's listen to the old man talk about old stuff. Hey YouTube. Well, we're continuing my series on getting ready to go camping in 1938. And one thing I want to make sure is if any of you ultralight people out there are watching this series, I've already traumatized you with a 7-pound musette bag. I don't want to further traumatize you when I talk about the rest of the load. So what I'll do is I'll let you know whenever I'm about to say a weight. There'll be a little flashing light or something on the screen. At that point, just close your eyes and stick your fingers in your ear and go la 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 for about 5 seconds. Okay? That way your psyche will be safe. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today in this video is my kitchen and some of the food that I'm coming along. Now, as far as the base weight part of this video, yeah, we're going to be weighing the stove and the cooking implements. We won't be weighing the food because that is not part of a normal base weight calculation. So let's go look at a old dude fiddling with stuff in the kitchen. Okay, we'll talk about the food first because that's not going to get weighed. All right. For supper, I will be using a portion of my can of dehydro vegetable soup. Okay, there's a video on this. I'll link to all of these videos in a playlist for all of this stuff. This is basically, like it says, it's soup vegetables. It's dehydrated vegetables, a little bit of seasoning. I will also be using my herb source substitute. Okay. Now the thing about it is in this pea soup, herbs worth substitute, there is 3 different meals, 3 meals in here. 3 meals worth of pea soup is in here, and about the same in the dehydro can. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these out, mix them up, and put them into one of these mailing tubes. I will label that as supper. Let me set that off to the side. Lunch on the trail is going to be some cheese and about a 3, 4, 5 inch long piece of sausage and some hard bread or crackers. I haven't quite decided yet what I'm going to do there. That has the advantage of being a food that I can consume quickly and share with the dog. I don't have to do anything special for the dog for my lunch meal. I can share with her. I'm also going to use one of these as kind of a snack food. I forget exactly what it's called. I'm going to have to go back and look at Sean Dyer's Honorable Outfitters video where I got this from. These are made by a Boy Scout troop. It's a historical snack food. I'll tell you more about it later, but that is going to go into its own bag, and I will break off pieces as I go along for a snack. Okay. Now, we'll talk about this later. Okay. This is, and no, it is not the breakfast food of a vegan crackhead. This is a version of muesli. And again, we'll talk about this later because I want to talk more about muesli. I can tell you that this is mixed. The mix in here is about a half a bag of Bob's Red Mill granola, a couple of sliced apricots, about a half a bag of blueberries, a couple of boxes of raisins, which I don't have handy, and some bacon bits, real bacon bits put in there, along with, about I think half a cup of powdered milk. Okay? And again, we'll talk more about the history of that and why I made it the way that I made it. Okay, so what we've got is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay? All right, let me put all that stuff away. I'll show you what we're going to use to cook it with. Okay, muesli. Muesli comes out of the health and wellness movement of the late 19th and early 20th century. Like the Kenwood sleeping bag, I'll include the video on the Kenwood sleeping bag in the playlist for this Baseweight 1938 series. But basically, the health and wellness movement was a bunch of people, some pseudo-scientists, some real scientists, some medical people, some nutcases, would put out, they would run sanatoriums. In this country, it was John Henry Kellogg's sanatorium in Battle Creek, Michigan. And as a society, what we got out of that was breakfast cereal, corn flakes, corn pops, all that kind of good stuff. They developed that to feed to their patrons in this health and wellness sanatorium. Muesli was a version made by a guy running a sanatorium in Switzerland. Okay, it is based on a traditional alpine peasant recipe that basically combines, uses rolled oats and combines mixtures of fruits and vegetables, and it is designed to be soaked overnight, and then the next morning you squeeze in a little bit of citrus and add some fresh fruit, and that's your breakfast. You eat it cold. Okay. German immigrants and Swiss immigrants in the late 19th and early 20th century brought the traditional peasant recipe with them when they came here. And it's, being here in Texas, we would have been influenced by the German immigrants that pretty much settled in central Texas, north central Texas. And after our soldiers in the First World War attended a number of rest camps in the French and Bavarian Alps after the end of the war, they would have been exposed to this food as well. Okay, so by the 1930s, muesli would have been in the it wouldn't necessarily have been common, but there would have been areas of the country where it was well known. And Texas would be one of those because of the German influence and because 2 infantry divisions were drawn from Texas and Oklahoma. Okay, so that influence would have been there. Now, the interesting thing about muesli is that it morphed over time. Okay, started out as muesli, as a breakfast cereal to be eaten cold. And the thing about muesli is that if you toast it and add a little bit of honey, you've got granola. And granola is easier to eat raw. You don't have to soak it overnight, and it travels better. It stores better. So those people exposed to muesli and the early peasant recipe gradually moved into making granola. And as the 20th century progressed, things kept being added and subtracted to it. In the 1960s and the 1970s, it was known as GORP, G-O-R-P, good old raisins and peanuts, or the Boy Scout definition was granola, oatmeal, raisins, and peanuts. Now, here's where I have to apologize for my generation. We took GORP and transformed it into trail mix. And if that wasn't bad enough, trail mix morphed into granola bars, and granola bars are of the devil. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, now, the stuff that I told you, well, it's sitting somewhere. I'll grab it later. The little brick of food. Sean Dyer, I consulted with Sean Dyer, and he reminded me that is Hudson Bay bread. Now, that is another traditional recipe that kind of became formalized and more well known in the 1960s. Essentially, it is muesli with honey and powdered nuts added, compressed and baked. I'll throw a recipe up here on the screen while we're talking about it, but essentially it's compressed granola, compressed muesli, principally oats. So you can see that my diet this weekend is going to be a lot of grain. A lot of grain, a lot of dried fruit, a little bit of meat, but the meat is fatty. Now that is reflective of the nutritional understanding of the time of what kind of food you need to live outdoors. Okay, it's more portable and more dependable than foraging, and a good deal lighter than carrying fresh beef, etc. and so forth. Okay, all right, that's why we're carrying muesli and all that other crap. Okay, all right, let's talk about the kitchenware. Okay, the kitchen is relatively simple. Okay, I have a 1910 canteen cup, and the carrier. This is a cavalry canteen carrier, as evidenced by the little snap hook up here. This, I haven't entirely decided exactly where I'm going to put this. This fits well on a belt loop, and I will likely, when this is full of water, put it on the opposite side of my body that my musette bag is in, kind of even out that load. All of my cooking is going to be done in my 1910 canteen cup. It's a great vessel for cooking. The rolled lip on here makes it not quite the best thing to drink out of, because that acts as a heat sink. You burn your lips something fierce. As far as eating is concerned, you've already seen the spoon. I have 2 bowls, one for myself and one for the dog. basically what I did was I took my Boy Scout mess kit and I took out the 1-quart pot and the cup and the handle, and now I have 2 bowls. Now to cook with, to use to cook, I am either going to be bringing my Primus 71E or my new to me Campus 3. Now we're going to take this out and test it later on. Maybe we'll set fire to it. Maybe we'll blow something up. You'll be able to see me put my pricker in the hole with this. As far as the Campus 3 is concerned, it's a beautiful little stove that was marketed between 1930 and 1940. But I've got some leakage in the filler cap. I'm going to shut this down. A bit of leakage around the filler cap. And there's only one place on the planet where you can get spare parts for this thing. And it's over in England. Ordered the parts. They're on their way here. If they get here in time, I'm going to carry this. One reason is it fits better in my haversack than this does. I would have to carry this in the pack. Now, pop this top up. This stove, I do have some cooking pots here. Okay, but these are more for trapping fuel in case I get a leak out of my stove. Okay, so if I ever do use these to cook in, I will wash very well and probably throw a match in there to see if it pops up in flame from leaked fuel. So, all right, in a little bit, after dark, we'll go out. I'll put my pricker in the hole, clean this out, show you how to clean this, and then we'll light it, test it for function. Okay? All right, see you in a minute. Okay, let's get a base weight for the kitchen. There's the plates and the canteen cover and cup, and that is, let me just double check and make sure, it looks like 1 pound 12 ounces. Okay, almost 2 pounds. Alrighty, let us. Now we're going to have to weigh the stoves separately because we don't know which one we're going to go. If the 72E, 1 pound 11 ounces. The Campus 3, 1 pound 1.5 ounces. You can see why I want to take this one. Okay, now I started to light my stove, and it wouldn't light, and I got into panic mode, so I didn't video all of that stuff. I shut off the video and concentrated on the stove. But I do not want to deprive you of your chance to see my pricker and watch me put it in the hole. So here is the preventative maintenance I did before attempting to light the stove. Okay, we do a visual inspection of the stove first. We're looking to see if there's any leakage. We'll sit that so that any fuel that is inside will come in contact here. And I'll point out, you can tell this is an earlier 71 because it's got the pressure release pin on it. Alrighty, so let me show you my pricker. That's this here. Let me get it up a little bit closer so See if you can see that. There it is. See, it's got that little pin on the end. Okay, we will take the burner cup off. And we will inspect the hole. And then we will take the pin on the pricker and put it in the hole and wiggle it around some. So remember, when you put your pricker in the hole, make sure you wiggle it around and move it back and forth, up and down, in and out. So we've got that, hopefully we've got that pretty well clean. Okay, well there you go. I hope it was everything you expected. The stove issue, it turns out there was a little bit too much wind where I was. I went into the garage and got my handy dandy folding windscreen. I may take this, I may not. That all depends on what the forecast winds are. It was just in a bad spot in the patio. The wind was coming in exactly the right way once I got it. Anyway, here is what it looked like once I solved the issue. Okay, so this is just to prove to you that I did get it to working. It took a while, and what the problem was, it was the wind. Once I got a decent windscreen, it started burning. We still got some fuel in the primer cup, but that should burn away here in a second. And there we go. Okay, there you go. You know, where else on YouTube can you see an old guy put his pricker in a hole and get stuff all hot? Now, today we had a severe weather event in here in Texas. We didn't go to work today. I stayed home, so I played around with a recipe, a new way of making hard bread, and once I've got this perfected, I'll do a full video on how to make this and hard bread as it applied to camping. And let me find a good one out here. Basically, I baked it in the air fryer instead of the oven. Here's a good one. Okay, there we go. Now this is using a mold that I made when I was doing World War I reproductions. Put it in the air fryer. I've got, I think about a dozen of these that I'm going to keep in a little stuff sack here. This stuff lasts forever, and one of the great things is if I get a hole in my shoe, I can repair it with this. Anyway, just throwing that in there. It's another part of my diet. More bread, more grains. I will also say that if I was following the prescribed military thinking of the time, okay, and this is where we get the nutritional in the field information. The Army designed a ration for their troops in the First World War that involved 1 pound of meat and 1 pound of bread and a little bit of coffee and a dash of salt every day when in the field. Okay, and the soldier had to carry 2 days worth of this in his pack. Okay, I think that's somewhere around 4,000 calories, and you can see that was what the military wanted you to have water, wanted you to have fat, wanted you to have bread. Okay, now I don't need quite that much because I'm not running around plunging bayonets in the chests of our enemies of our country. But this is the kind of thinking that a 71-year-old man in the late 1930s, a 71-year-old man who had been in the military, this is the kind of thinking he would have done in order to prepare himself for a trip in the woods. And that's what I'm doing. I'm a 71-year-old man in about 1937, 1938, something like that. So, a lot of bread, a lot of grains, fatty meats. Okay? All right. Next video is going to be on the sleep shelter system and the pack. We'll try to get that out to you in a couple of days. See you down the trail.